The Rugby Championship is back. Just finished watching the opener between Australia and South Africa in Brisbane. The full-time whistle has just gone. These are my immediate thoughts following the full-time whistle. And thank you very much for watching. The New Zealand-Argentina game is going to kick off in, as I record this, 20 minutes time. So I'm going to make this brief, go and watch that game, and I might pop back later for some more thoughts. But yeah, spoiler alert, you're about to find out the result. If you don't want to know, then watch out, because South Africa, that was not a dream. Australia, that was, maybe sadly for you, not a nightmare. That was real. 33-7 and a beatdown of a performance, a statement victory for the Springboks. Brisbane curse? What Brisbane curse? So I think I said in the preview, and I'll probably go along with it right now, that I said previewing this game the other day on the channel that this was arguably the best South Africa have ever been. And this might also arguably be the worst Australia that there's ever been. I think definitely the second one of those is true. This is another low ebb for Australia, who looked like they were rebuilding under Joe Schmidt. They will get better. I'm confident in that. But they were very, very poor. South Africa, the best they've ever been. That's maybe more debatable. But what we can say is they were very, very good. And like I say, a statement victory. I suppose the only positive for Australia, they didn't get bageled in the end. They managed to get a try. When they were up against 13 South Africans, they managed to finally get the ball to the touchline. Something they barely did at all during the game was play with any width. And they actually scored. They will improve. The biggest positive for South Africa, I would say, is they will improve as well. They left some opportunities out there. They were wasteful, but nevertheless ominously good. And that's a measure of where a measure of where the two teams are at was the crowd, actually. Before we get into the actual game, the crowd, which seemed like a home crowd for South Africa, which says a lot about where rugby union is in Australia and just about how the Boks have grown. I was watching some old clips of Rugby Championship games in the De Villiers era, and there were loads of empty seats at some of these Rugby Championship matches. But even when the Boks go abroad, they dominate the crowd, which is something. That was, so it wasn't Brisbane, it was Brisbane, Bourbon. Felt like a home match. And I love, and again, seeing it again, the anthem's both brilliant, but Sia, Ox and Bongi singing in the tunnel before they run out. I'm going to miss that when those players aren't playing. Anyway. Peter Steph-Totoy came into the lock position. Something, again, I've been discussing and a lot of comments have been saying on the channel in recent videos. That actually happened with the injury to RG Snyman and Ben Jason Dixon starting. Elrig Lowe as well, new face. And that combination, just a little bit of new blood is all it needed to kind of... positives, I would suggest, in personnel. Actually, I haven't even said, I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. If you get value from the channel, please give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe as well. And yeah, I'm going to crack on with my thoughts on the game. So, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, a lot of eyes were on him. He kicked off the match to get things going. And he proved, with his first kick at goal, he is human. The commentator gave it the commentary curse, saying he's never missed. But he played the whole 80 minutes. I thought that in itself was quite revealing. Rassie Erasmus and Tony Brown very keen to get him game time in his legs, which he did, and did some awesome things overall. I'm not just talking about Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu for a second. That break in the first half should have led to a try. Villy LaRue absolutely butchered it. He had two men outside him, stepped inside, got turned over. But the break in the first place was electric. And that floated pass from right to left over the Australian defence and got Colby on the outside. There was just a few moments where you're like, there you go. That's the extra that Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu can bring to this Bok team. And I thought overall the transitions for South Africa, when they turned the ball over, they just dropped the hammer and went. Part of that was because they were clearly the better team and were on top, and you wonder what they would do. Would they play the same way in a tight, tense match? Maybe in that game against New Zealand in a few weeks. But if this is a sign of where things are going with South Africa, they are going to be a very, very dangerous team. when they've got a defence like they do and the ability to just bust teams open on the counter-attack. Very New Zealand-esque, actually, I would say. And they showed some new things. The double lifting pod in the line-out, they tried that a few times. It led to that first try from Sia Khaleesi, didn't it? And also Cheslin Colby at scrum half for the first scrum. That was a cheeky little thing. But we saw lots of stuff we've always seen from the box. An actually devastatingly strong scrum, for one thing. As for Australia, I don't know about you. What did you think? What did you make? What did you think of Australia? I just thought they were really narrow. And still, despite being really narrow and clearly trying to get lots of men around the ball, they still managed to find themselves isolated at the breakdown, which, I don't know, that would be a worry for me. And the halfbacks, the two halfbacks, Gordon and Lalicio, I mean, I felt sorry for them because they had no platform to play off, but they did not look good. And that halfback situation for Australia is a big concern when you think on the other side, South Africa had Hondre Pollard and they didn't even use him. And Australia are kind of stuck scratching their head, like who's gonna run this team. But I suppose actually it's kind of irrelevant who the halfbacks are if the forwards can't lay a platform, which they didn't for the most part of the game. The scrum got absolutely monstered. One thing I will say is, and say to Australia's credit, with all the talk about the law variations and depowering the scrum, Australia did not try and game the system and get out of scrummaging by deliberately giving away a free kick. I mean, you could argue it was naive that they didn't do that, but I'll stick with the positive and say fair play for not doing that. So Sia Khaleesi with that first try. It was Peter Steph Toy that scored a second try. That was a really good team move, just waves of pressure. Eventually, Australia ran out of numbers and over they go. That was 14-0. And then there was that Andrew Kellaway yellow card, wasn't there? For a WWE move. I'm laughing. Poor Cobus Reinach, look at his face. Oh dear, that could have been bad though. So fine, good that he got a yellow card, I guess. But Cobus Reinach, his tempo was really good on the game, I thought. But he was in the wars, wasn't he? Because there was this, and there was also that moment where he took a ball brilliantly, only to land with Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu's knee, cracking him right in the jaffers. So Cobus Reinach, he'll be icing lots of parts of his body this evening, I would suggest. Right, the try just before half-time to make it a 21-0 at half-time. This was both brilliant attack, and we saw this from Kurtley Arendse in this game. It was also unacceptable from Australia. That is embarrassing from Australia. For an international rugby team, that's going to be a horror show. Like, in fact, I would, if I were an Australian, I'd rather watch a horror movie than watch that try. It was, from Australia's perspective, an absolute disgrace, and it speaks to, sadly, I don't know, lack of effort. No, I wouldn't say lack of effort, but mentally, a complete lack of confidence. 100%. That try was unforgivable for Kurtley Arendse, brilliant attacker as he is, great footwork as he's got. For him to run through about four people who were just putting out arms with a token effort at a tackle, completely unacceptable at that level. I mean, I coach my son's team and I'd be annoyed if any of the lads put in some tackle attempts like that at the age they are, let alone on an international rugby pitch. That was, I don't go for hyperbolic language very much. If you watch Channel Friendly next time, you'll know that. I kind of try and keep things simmered, but that try was a disgrace for Australia, and clearly there are searching questions that they need to ask. They don't have a big player pool, they don't have a huge amount of quality, and the players actually, for the most part, defensively, I thought were manful. The low chop tackles were working really well. They tried the whole game. They're lacking quality. South Africa were very, very good, and they had a constant wave. But just that moment just spoke to me that there's the confidence that was lost under Eddie Jones, and that it looked like it was back under Joe Schmidt is not there yet, and it's going to take a long time for Australia to tiptoe their way back. Anyway, second half. By South African standards, that was a poor second half, and I guess that's the one area where I would say from the box they can and will improve. So against Ireland, I was out in South Africa for that game, and the Durban match, second test, they were really poor in the first half and really good in the second half. Not quite good enough to get the win. In this game, very, very good first half. Just let the foot off the pedal a little bit. And an 80-minute performance is what the Boks are going to need against New Zealand. And obviously that's what they're searching for. When they pull it all together, it's going to be something. You could also say they were quite wasteful. They butchered some chances in the first half. I already mentioned the one from Villy Leroux that he should have just put the man outside him in and it would have been another try. But they also messed up a few line-outs. Malcolm Mark's arrows were not great today. And that was before he got his yellow card. So he'll be a bit disappointed with his day at the office. Coming on after 30 minutes for Bongi and Banambi. I don't know if that was an injury or that was tactical. I've no idea, actually. They didn't mention it in the commentary I was watching. And, they wasted a few opportunities, so they'll think they left points out there. It took 20 minutes for the next score to come. That came through Quagga Smith. And that was a real, just relentless pressure. And then, just like waiting for a London bus, you get nothing for 20 minutes, then two come along at once with Arendse scoring another try, 33-0 it was, before a couple of yellow cards and then a consolation Australia try. And that was the game. 33-7. The curse of Brisbane lifted. The woes for Joe Schmidt, the honeymoon period well and truly over for him. And the Tony Brown and Rassie Erasmus era for South Africa with Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, with some of the tricks and some of the new blood coming in, there's real optimism. I think, I predicted 20, I think I said the Boks by 20. And I know that a lot of South African fans, if you're one of them, I know a lot of people in the comments were a little bit like, whoa, careful, this is Australia in Brisbane. But this isn't Australia how Australia have been, and this is South Africa potentially reaching new heights, which is frightening for the rest of the rugby world, isn't it? Hopefully, New Zealand and Argentina can bring it. Just looking at the time. Yeah, I'm going to get off and go and watch that game now, and then I'll be back on the channel. If you appreciate the content, hit subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. I'll see you on the next one.